Hello, this is Shahidul Islam from Paris. I am a heritage professional, researcher and policy analyst in the field of UNESCO's competence. I have the honor and pleasure to share with you this presentation on integrating living heritage in school-based education. The purpose of this presentation is to show with you and share with you the knowledge on how we can develop heritage education, taking into account UNESCO's different cultural conventions and its thematic program. The objective of this presentation is to firstly show how we can integrate the multidisciplinary approach of teaching in different fields, for example, art, history, geography, archaeology, and IT, to develop heritage education curriculum. And secondly, it will show examples of UNESCO cultural conventions and its heritage education program. Thirdly, it will show how we can contribute to the safeguarding of the heritage through heritage education program. And fourthly, how heritage education program raise public awareness of their cultural heritage. So as we all aware about the Transforming Education Summit and Mondial Gold Conference that took place in 2022. During the Transforming Education Summit, our Secretary General of the United Nations has made an urgent political call to rethink the purpose and content of education in the 21st century for learn to live together. That has also been emphasized and underlined during the Mondial Conference, where the Minister of Cultures gathered together and raised their voice that we need to enhance synergies between culture and education, and we also need to develop context relevant education which encompasses cultural heritage, history, and traditional knowledge. So in the 21st century, we need environmental, interpersonal, empathy, and digital skills to build a sustainable world for us and for all. And to achieve those skills, we need to introduce heritage education program that teaches us to know about the identity of the people, all promote respect for cultural diversity, and develop mutual appreciation and solidarity among the people of the world. So therefore it is right now the time to introduce the curricula to empower learners through value-based education. Therefore heritage education is an essential tool to learn about the identity of the people, heritage, history, and traditional knowledge, and that we can only do it when we will be able to integrate and introduce culture into formal, informal, and non-formal education. And now the question is, who is leading this process? It is the UNESCO as a mandated agency for education, culture, social and human sciences, and natural sector to lead the process and also to guide us to develop the program that is fit for purpose and that is for learn to live together. So UNESCO has different education program. One of the best education program is Education for Sustainable Development, and through this program they aim to change society and care for planet. They focuses on environmental integrity, economic viability, and a just society for present and future generations. And in this education program they have different thematic areas of education. For example, the main focus is on climate change, and then they have also biodiversity, disaster risk reduction, and sustainable consumption. And in those thematic areas they have developed activities with students that relates with appreciating nature, valuing biodiversity, and supporting sustainable consumption. And that helps the learners to understand and address the impacts of the climate crisis, empower them with the knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes needed to act as agents of change. So UNESCO has another education program which is Global Citizenship Education. This education program aims to create a sense of belonging to the global community and a common humanity and respect for the universal values of human rights, democracy, non-discrimination, and diversity. And in this education program, UNESCO has different thematic areas of education. For example, peace and human rights, intercultural understanding, citizenship education, respect for diversity, and tolerance. The students can have different activities related with tolerance, respect for diversity, and promoting peace. This empowers them to engage and assume the role to shape a more peaceful, tolerant, inclusive world. So this is a very important education program that will help us to develop our heritage education program. So before we move into details about the heritage education, we really need to learn about what is heritage. Heritage is about the legacy from the past, what we live with in the present, and what we pass to our future generation. Can we imagine a place where we live without the heritage? No. Where we live, surrounding us, there are historical places, heritage sites, archaeological sites that used to belong to our ancestors, that belong to us, and that will belong to our future generation. And that is the thing we really need to understand, and also we really need to know how we can and introduce those heritage into our education program. So how heritage education contributes to UNESCO strategic objective? UNESCO has next 8 years medium-term strategy. In this strategy, they have different strategic objectives to achieve. One of those objectives is to ensure quality, equitable, and inclusive education through promoting learning and creative societies. The second objective is to build sustainable societies and protecting the environment through promoting natural heritage. And then another objective is to build inclusive, just, and peaceful societies by promoting freedom of expression, cultural diversity, education for global citizenship, and protecting the heritage. So when we will develop the heritage educations, we already know that those heritage education will directly contribute to the UNESCO strategic objectives, and that ultimately helps us to achieve the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. As we all know, UNESCO has 6 cultural conventions and its different thematic program. One of the convention is 2005 convention, which promote diversity of cultural expressions. This convention refers to the creativity of the people, the natural resources that we have within ourselves, the people that creates the cinema, the audio visual, design, media arts, music, performing arts, publishing, and visual arts. So this is one of the important cultural convention that UNESCO has, and its member states who are signatory of this convention is to promote the diversity of cultural expression and protection of it. So UNESCO's 2003 convention concerning the intangible cultural heritage has 5 different domain. The domain oral traditions and expressions deals with proverb, tales, legend, myths. The performing arts domain deals with vocal and instrumental music, traditional song, dance, and social ritual and festive events mark the passing of the seasons or important events in the society. And knowledge and practice concerning the nature deals with the indigenous knowledge about the local flora and fauna. It also have the traditional healing system. And then finally, the traditional craftsmanship domain that has clothing and jewelry, costumes for festivals and performing arts, and so on. So this is one of the most celebrated convention that UNESCO has, and that has many domains which will give us many opportunities to develop different education program. And one of the most important convention is 1972 Convention on World Heritage. This convention has more than 1,000 world cultural and natural heritage sites in 167 countries. This is one of the most celebrated and famous World Heritage Convention, which promotes and protect the safeguarding of our common heritage of cultural and natural site. This convention has different program, for example, World Heritage Cities program, historic urban landscape, World Heritage and Marine program, climate change and World Heritage and tourism, World Heritage and sustainable development, heritage on religious interest. So UNESCO's 1970 Convention on Illicit Trafficking, Return and Restitution of Cultural Property deals with the member states and different organizations to return and restitute illegally trafficked cultural objects. And here are some examples of different cooperation with Germany, Comoros and Djibouti, as well as with Egypt. 1954 Convention and its two protocol on protecting cultural heritage in the event of armed conflict deals with the urgent situation where there is an event of armed conflict. UNESCO has the mandate to cooperate with the concerned state party in the event of armed conflict to protect the cultural heritage and natural heritage. For example, UNESCO has a Heritage for Peace program, and through this program, UNESCO has undertaken a great initiative called Revive the Spirit of Mosul. They have reconstructed the Mosque of Al Nouri after the destruction of the city. And there is another example that UNESCO is showing and carrying out is cooperating with the government of Ukraine in this difficult time, where UNESCO has produced many guidelines and publications to help the government of Ukraine to protect and safeguard their heritage sites from destruction. UNESCO also has a program on protecting of cultural property for the military, police and law enforcement agency. So under this convention, UNESCO plays an important role to protect and safeguard the common heritage of humanity. And under the UNESCO's different cultural conventions, it has also different thematic programs. For example, UNESCO Creative Cities Network, which is a very innovative program that recognizes different cities for their specialty. Here you can look into the photos. Different cities are recognized as a city of creative for their music, gastronomy, crafts and design, and architecture, and so on. So this is one of the important thematic program that UNESCO developed and which promote the creativity of different cities. They have also other international days, for example, International Day of Nowruz, World Art Day, International Day of Islamic Art, World Olive Tree Day, International Church Day, African World Heritage Day, International Day Against Illicit Trafficking in Cultural Properties, and International Day of World Book and Copyright. those are the programs that also contributes to the safeguarding of heritage, and those programs also can play an very important example to when we will introduce our heritage education curricula. We can take them as an example and develop our thematic education program. So UNESCO Strategic Objective 1 encourages us to diversify the learning pathways for young people and adults to strengthen their skill, and we can diversify these learning pathways through integrating culture into the national education policies, and also to develop education program that will help the students to develop their artistic and cultural education. And on the other side, through non-formal education, we can arrange the study tour in different World Heritage sites, and also intangible heritage elements, as well as analysis and case study of Memory of the World program, as well as visiting museums and cultural institute. So in this different way, we can diversify our pathways, and that will contribute to the achievement of UNESCO's strategic objective 1. UNESCO strategic objective 2 is to work towards sustainable societies and protecting the environment. Within the UNESCO Cultural Conventions, we can develop program to assess the impact of climate change on our cultural and natural heritage sites. That's how we can contribute to safeguarding and protecting the environment. On the other hand, the social impact of climate change as well as the societal transformation should also be taken into account when we will develop program that will focus on safeguarding our UNESCO cities network, the learning cities, the creative cities, as well as safeguarding of the local indigenous knowledge and good practices. So we can develop those programs in order to contribute to protecting the environment. Strategic objective 3 is to build inclusive, just and peaceful societies by promoting freedom of expression, cultural diversity, through protecting the heritage. As an UN agency for culture, UNESCO is promoting, safeguarding and protecting diverse cultural expressions. This is how it is contributing to develop and build inclusive societies. And UNESCO has an intercultural dialogue program where it encourages to share our common histories and memories, including those around the general history of Africa, general history of Caribbean, and the slave route and the Silk Route project. UNESCO also encourages us to develop different linguistic program that deals with the multilingualism, and this is one of the important area where it contributes directly to the diversity of cultural expression at local, regional, national and global level. So through these different thematic programs, we can really contribute to build inclusive, just and peaceful societies. Intergenerational transmission is key to safeguarding heritage. The picture that I'm showing here, I have taken it from a supermarket in France, where it says that savoir-faire transmis de père en fils depuis 1953. It means that the traditional knowledge is transmitting from father to the sons since 1953. It's the local company is producing the traditional food, and they are marketing with this slogan. So we really can understand how important it is that to safeguard our heritage, and also to transmit the traditional knowledge from generation to generation. This is the key to safeguard our heritage, as also to preserve for our future generation. Education is key to transmit the savoir-faire from generation to generation. The 2003 convention has also recognizes that through formal and non-formal education we can transmit the intangible heritage, and in our primary, secondary and post-secondary schools we can introduce the heritage education program, as well as non-formal way, for example in small study course, as well as short courses, community learning and capacity building activities. So this is very important for us that we introduce the education to transmit, learn and preserve the intangible heritage. In this slide we can see different examples from different countries. The first picture is part of the global citizenship education, where heritage club in Uganda participate in different school event through cultural exhibitions, and so on. And through this program, they encourages students to learn about the cultural diversity and respect for the differences. On the other hand, in second photo, in Turkey, they have introduced the technical and vocational education training to made handmade glazed tiles, which is into UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list. So they are teaching on the process of making these handmade tiles at school, as well as how different dyes can be used as part of the subject of chemistry. And in the third program, that is from the Southern Africa, is about education for sustainable development, how we can use our traditional local knowledge to protect our environment. And then the final one is from the El Salvador, where they have developed programs on the multilingual education that can help to safeguard our traditional proverbs, tales, and so on. So these are very nice and excellent examples that we can follow to develop our heritage program in our own country. We can use different approaches to learn from living heritage. It depends on the local context, needs and educational system. For example, in Indonesia, they are teaching the traditional handcrafted textile that is known as batik in the classroom. In the classroom, the students learn how natural dyes are used to dye these traditional clothes. On the other hand, in the history class, the students learn about the development of this pattern of batik. And when they learn it, they become more aware and respectful to their own living heritage. That means that it strengthens and the bond with the living heritage, and as well as it strengthens the transmission of knowledge and skills. So they learn it, they practice it, and that will rest with them in future, so they can also transmit it to future generations. So when we learn about the different subjects through our living heritage, it stays with us forever. It also helps us to safeguard our heritage. So how we can learn through living heritage, possible linkage between school subject and living heritage. For example, uh, through our language class, we can learn about mother tongue and multilingual education. So we can take a songs, text, stories as an example to analyze it, to translate different words, expression, and sayings for our students, so the students can learn the expressions, sayings, as well as that will help them to develop their own stories, creative works, creative poems, music, and songs. So this is very important that in language classes we use the traditional living heritage that exists within our community to develop our language skills. And in the mathematics, we can solve arithmetic problem by uh, taking example of traditional recipe where students can calculate the ratios of different ingredients that we use for cooking. We can also explore local systems and tools for calculating, measuring, and recording. We can use geometry to explore different aspects of symmetry and geometric pattern in local textile, paintings, architecture, and other patterns. So those are the traditional heritage that exists within our society. It is easy for the children to relate those mathematical terms, to learn about this, and also to apply it in their own learning, and transmit it in future generations. We can use in the economic class how the production cost relates to the traditional recipe. We can also compare income versus expenses for local elements of living heritage, including traditional festival, like craft production, and agricultural practices. Then we can discuss it at school, in the classroom, that those exercise that we take place, how it contributes to the sustainable economy. And we can also use chemistry and natural science and biology. In chemistry, we can learn about when two dyes are mixed or heated in food or textile, how it reacts, how the color changes. Looking into our traditional textile, and on the other hand, in natural sciences and biology class, we can look into our plants and animals surrounding us, and how they behave when the season changes, and how we use the raw materials, for example fiber, dyes, and food, how we cultivate them, and then the possible link with environment, seasons. All those things belongs to us, all those things are there in front of us, so we can take them as an example and develop the education program. So that will be really easy for students to relate the theory with practice. In the history and social sciences, we can compare our current and past practices in different activities and daily life, how it changes, what kinds of common daily activities we used to do in the past and what we do right now, how the rituals, for example carnivals and celebrations, have changed, and analyze them with the historical context. And then on the other side, we can use the geography to learn about the locations of different intangible heritage in different areas, why they are located, why they have different styles and forms, and why the local buildings and architectural techniques are different in different environments. So those are the tools that we can use to learn about the geography, to learn about the history through our living heritage. In the arts and culture subject, we can learn about local artistic expressions, the aesthetic values, decorative elements, how it was, how it is changing right now. We can also use our civic and citizenship education to learn about the traditional practices, how the modern rules and regulations have impact on the traditional practice, traditional medicine, food practices, land management, and so on. So those are the subject areas that we can easily learn through our living heritage. In the technical and practical skills, we can learn about weaving, embroidery, pottery, dyeing textiles, carving, calligraphy, and metalwork. Students also can learn about different agricultural tools, traditional techniques for building a house, irrigation, etc. So these all are there in front of us. We just need to analyze them and build capacity for our teacher to develop the curriculum for students. Students also can use physical education and learn it through traditional dance, theater, performance, and circus. They can also use traditional sports, participate in different teamwork to learn about the physical education. This slide shows the step-by-step approach of integrating living heritage in school-based education. So the first step is understand your context, where you are, what you want to do, how you want to do, when you want to do, with whom you want to do. The second thing is to select the living heritage that you will introduce it to the classroom. So we really need to learn about this living heritage and analyze this to identify the different subject areas. And on the fourth, we will need to design our class and lessons by analyzing the elements in which subject it belongs to, whether it is in mathematics, chemistry, or technical. Once we develop the lessons, we will deliver it to classroom. So we will get involved with students as well as the different partners to give lessons on this. So most important thing also is to document our class so that we can share it with our peers and to encourage them and also to share our knowledge. And finally, we must also evaluate what we did. By evaluating, we can always improve our activities for next class. In the evaluation form, you can use the method KWL. K for what I know about this ICH, what I want to know about this, and what I learned from this. And then on the other hand, you should explain explain it new things that you have learned and the reason that you have learned and why it is important for safeguarding for the community and what steps we should take to safeguard this element. So in the classroom, when we will introduce a subject, we can learn about the subject, we can learn about the living heritage, and as well as we will be able to identify the problems, challenges, and also the way to safeguard them. So you see, in integrating living heritage in school-based education always gives a bigger understanding about the heritage and also about the subject. In this slide, you can see an example of the course content. This course has been introduced in Spain at an elementary school where students learn about the flamenco, dancing and singing element, which is inscribed on UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list. Students analyze the lyrics of the song and they learn the different linguistic expressions and also try to rewrite the songs. They also learn to how to dance and also then to practice it among their peers. So by doing this, they learn about the language, they learn about the historical aspects of these flamenco songs, lyrics, and so on. So it is an important example that we can introduce in our classroom, in our local classroom, where we can choose our own traditional dance to learn about language, music, and so on. In this slide, we can see an example from Estonia where they have used handicraft and decorations in mathematics in the classroom. They have used the Estonian traditional crafts where students learn about what kinds of material they used, why the patterns and designs are different in different region. So they use mathematics and geometry to learn about different pattern and use it in their own style, and then they have also used the mathematics to calculate the production cost and so on. So it is a good example also to learn about how we can use handicraft and decorations to learn about mathematics and geometry. In this slide, we can take an example from two countries, Bangladesh and Egypt, to develop a course. For example, Baul song is one of the traditional song that is inscribed on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List. With this Baul song, we can analyze the language, arts and culture, its musical and poetry history, and analyze them to learn about the linguistic diversity. On the other hand, the traditional art of Jamdani weaving can teach us about the technical and vocational training, how Jamdani motifs and techniques are created in this textile, how we use the different design to create different elements. On the other hand, in Egypt, these Ice Age elements of Arabic calligraphy that will also teach us about the Islamic Arab art, how the synthetic paint and spray paint is used for modern calligraphy and so on. So you see that we just need to know about the living heritage. We take them as an example and we look into those living heritage, and then we analyze them through different subject, and that's how we can transmit the knowledge about subject. We can transmit the traditional savoir-faire about the traditional living heritage among our students. So this is how we can protect and safeguard our heritage, and we can transmit it to our future generation. So in this slide, we can see that how culture can contribute to the realization of 2030 agenda. It is an important time right now for us to act and to introduce culture-based education, because we know that the SDGs are built on 5 P's, that is people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. On the other hand, the culture conventions are related with the peoples and the planet, and that contributes also to the prosperity, peace, and partnership of our different communities at the local, national, regional, and international level. So it is an important domain that we can use to fill the gap of the implementation of the 2030 agenda. We can take culture as an important domain to fill the gaps that we have right now in order to proceed to realize the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So how we can develop heritage education for academic knowledge as well as to the future employment opportunities in the culture sector. So we must first look into what skills are expected to develop in my country in the strategy of our national employment, we can look into the artistic skills, social cohesion, technical skills, and so on. And then we also need to reflect on the objectives of our national education and how this national education policy incorporated the heritage education. And then when we understand the national education policy and heritage education policy, we can integrate these two in order to develop the education program. And then we also can look into our cultural institutions that exist within our country. For example, the cultural heritage institution, the museums, the artistic schools, those we can you take them as a partner to develop comprehensive program for our student. So we must really identify the skills that is required to develop within our country, and then we use our national agencies to make the partnership, as well as the global partners like UN agencies, specialized agencies like UNESCO, ICROM, IUCN, and EU, and other different NGOs. This is how we can make an impactful heritage education for our student. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for watching it. I hope that this presentation will be helpful for you to develop the heritage education program for the students and for our future generation. So I thank you very much.